Don't miss on U24.
Now, to be honest with you, we are currently living in the best time to ever get rich online. And well, I assume that's why you're watching this video. Now, to some of you who may not know who I am, well, I'm Daniel Ashweze, a 24-year millionaire day trader, and I've been trading close to 5 years. I have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars entirely through trading. And more to that, I've been able to teach thousands of students to make money trading. Now, my purpose of doing this video is to teach you on how to start trading completely from scratch. I'll show you what to do straight from the beginning, and I'll also take you through the intermediate, and lastly, how you can actually be able to make money. And by the way, I'll also show you on how you can start with as less as $50. Now, without any further ado, let's get started with our course.
Don't miss on U24.
Entrepreneurs Hub, giving you a deep and unique insight into agribusiness, services, ICT and innovation, industrialization and so much more. Entrepreneurs Hub, growing your small, medium and large business entity. With yours truly, Sandra Kahunde.
Hello, my name is Erica Murunji and welcome to Be Inspired by Erica. So today I want to talk about personal branding. The way you appear in public, your dress code, your personal hygiene, the words that come out of your mouth, your language, is the way people will address you. Be mindful of the things like your behavior, your actions, your language, the way you talk, the way you dress. Because the people you surround yourself with, your dress code, the words that come out of your mouth, and the way you address others is what defines who you are. Therefore, remind yourself every day, every night, that your personal branding is a priority. Thank you for watching. Stay blessed. Much love.
Don't miss on U24.
Now, to be honest with you, we are currently living in the best time to ever get rich online. And well, I assume that's why you're watching this video. Now, to some of you who may not know who I am, well, I'm Daniel Ashweze, a 24-year millionaire day trader, and I've been trading close to 5 years. I have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars entirely through trading. And more to that, I've been able to teach thousands of students to make money trading. Now, my purpose of doing this video is to teach you on how to start trading completely from scratch. I'll show you what to do straight from the beginning, and I'll also take you through the intermediate, and lastly, how you can actually be able to make money. And by the way, I'll also show you on how you can start with as less as $50. Now, without any further ado, let's get started with our course.
Hello, my name is Erica Murunji and welcome to Be Inspired by Erica. So today I want to talk in class so that you can be able to learn whatever they are teaching so that you can not forget and pass your examinations. Number 4, always complete your homework so that you don't be in panic and you can use it for revision when you're about to do an examination. Number 5, respect your teachers and peers. If you respect your teachers, they can help you with some numbers that you don't understand, and your friends can also explain to you if you don't know a concept. Stay organized so that you can make your teachers
Don't miss on U24.
Entrepreneurs Hub, giving you a deep and unique insight into agribusiness, services, ICT and innovation, industrialization and so much more. Entrepreneurs Hub, growing your small, medium and large business entity. With yours truly, Sandra Kahunde.
Don't miss on U24.
Now, to be honest with you, we are currently living in the best time to ever get rich online. And well, I assume that's why you're watching this video. Now, to some of you who may not know who I am, well, I'm Daniel Ashweze, a 24-year millionaire day trader, and I've been trading close to 5 years. I have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars entirely through trading. And more to that, I've been able to teach thousands of students to make money trading. Now, my purpose of doing this video is to teach you on how to start trading completely from scratch. I'll show you what to do straight from the beginning, and I'll also take you through the intermediate and lastly how you can actually be able to make money. And by the way, I'll also show you on how you can start with as less as $50. Now, without any further ado, let's get started with our course.
Good evening, welcome. This is U24 Television, your national youth TV. My name is Ivan Tumukunde and you're right on time. This is the checkpoint where we talk everything to do with the law in Uganda. And we're doing this with a team right from the Law Development Center in partnership majorly with the Guild Presidency. And always on Tuesdays, we're here to be able to bring you everything concerning law in Uganda. How do we keep on the right side of the law, but also understanding it for the purposes of growth for those who are still learning. How are you able to understand the history of law in Uganda? How is it actually being applied? And all that. We keep engaging you. Kindly keep your feedback coming on all our social media platforms. We are streaming live on YouTube at U24 Television. You can send in your comments on X at U24 Television UG to make sure that you're part of this conversation. And I will be later be giving out feedback from you, reading our comments that is coming in right from you. My name is Ivan Tumukunde once again. And today with me in studio, I have a team from LDC. And to start from my immediate left, you always complain that we don't have ladies on set, and today we've decided to have one. And a disclaimer that even last week we were supposed to have one, but I don't know why ladies usually disappoint. Someone calls you at 2 minutes past 9 to let you know that they can't make it for the show. What happens with the ladies? And I'll push that to peace tonight to tell us, why don't you ladies want to talk about serious issues to do with your country?
Good evening. As I've already been introduced, my name is Peace Pilana Masaba, a lawyer and a student at the Law Development Center. In reply to the host's question, when you take anecdotal evidence and you make it a generalization, it becomes a stereotype. And you know, when you have a stereotype against women, some people might call it, you know, misogyny and other things like that. So
it's a fact, actually.
It is anecdotal evidence, something that happens in your personal life.
Sure. What usually happens, maybe there might be something that we don't know, and we should be able to give those that can't make it an excuse. What usually happens?
Well, imagine if it was a male panelist who had missed the session. Would you have come to the same conclusion?
Which rarely happens, and that's why we are not complaining.
Which is why I'm saying it is anecdotal evidence.
And I think that helps because usually the question is, why do you have a panel full of men? And it's not that we don't usually invite ladies on the set, but the issue is that you do, when they don't make it, you have to be able to fill up. But welcome to the show. It's your first appearance, and this is our second episode.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next to Peace is Martin. Martin, say hello to the viewer. He has his own microphone. It's okay.
Yes, omukerekere omukupa Martin Dipores musajja akaawa kitaka kyangwe Chobe bali baseka but they kept quiet is my name.
Thank you for the introduction, Martin. Bali baseka chali chikawa oba sijja bisobola. Vian, welcome to the show. Say hello to the viewer.
Thank you very much, Ivan. My name is John Vianney Ayobare, and I'm the Guild President at the Law Development Center. I'm happy to be here once again.
Yeah.
Thank you for hosting us. We hope that the viewers are going to benefit from this show, and we're also looking forward to the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vianney. And to start with you, Peace, if you can please break down for us the background in as far as rule of law is concerned in Uganda.
All right. Before we began this show, we were having a discussion, and we talked about the history of rule of law. You know, as we talk about history, we can talk about Ugandan history, international history. But one thing I would like to point out in legal education and the legal circles, most times because this law that we practice, that we have in Uganda, isn't necessarily our law, but it is the law handed over by the colonialists to us.
What do you mean by handed over?
Handed over. Actually, if you look at some of the laws in Uganda, they are word for word what the British left for us in 1902.
We basically just inherited what they
copied and
had.
pasted, yes.
Wow.
Yes. So when you talk about the law in Uganda, it is what happened in the Asian civilizations, what happened in England, what happened in India, what happened in that. And that's where I'd like to begin this concept of rule of law from, because while maybe we had rule of law in 1000 BC in Uganda, we don't have evidence of that because our history is not written. It was passed on by word of mouth. And that kind of history is a kind that easily gets lost in translation and along the way. So in some of these things, as Ugandans, we are kind of historyless.
Wow.
So the concept of rule of law begins from civilizations in India, in China, and we have written records from Greece. That is where we have some of our biggest jurisprudence experts, the philosophers, the Aristotles. Yes, you know. And in ancient Greece, we had kingdoms, like as we did in pre-colonial Uganda, we had kingdoms. And the biggest thing that stuck out was that, yes, they did have kings, but they said that the kings should not exercise arbitrary power over the common man. In that the law should be above the king, that the king should not be above the law. And this translated into the formation of the United States, to the founders, the John Adams, and into what is kind of their constitution because they don't have one. And this concept of rule of law still translated into the French Revolution. And the French Revolution is what informs what we call democracy today. Because the French did away with the kingship, with the rulers, you know, who come through succession and were like, we want to vote. We want our voices to be heard. So from the French voices, the philosophers like Crossy, we come up with the principle of rule of law. Now, back to Uganda, pre-colonial Uganda had kingdoms. And when we talk about Uganda, it is difficult to not talk about Uganda because Uganda has the written history, the colonialists, the missionaries, the explorers. Everyone who came to this interlacustrine region was always talking about Uganda. Actually, the colonialists were shocked about the organization that Uganda has as a kingdom because they thought that as Africans, as black people, were going to be barbaric. So the Baganda had the Luchiko, and the Luchiko is kind of the parliament of Uganda. They still have it up to date, yes. But one thing about the Luchiko was that the Luchiko was formed by the Kabaka, and it was just merely to advise him on his vision for the people. By this alone, it means that the Kabaka had the vision of the people. But when we look at the state of Uganda that we're in currently, the president does not necessarily have the vision for the people. The vision, our aspirations, our ideals of a country as Uganda are in the constitution. So we are seeing a shift of the arbitrariness from the Kabaka, from the kingships, from saying that, oh, this one person, all the power of the people is vested in him. And now in this modern day, we are vesting our power. We are handing it over and we're saying it's in the constitution. Our rights, our obligations, our duties as citizens, they're in the constitution and we must respect it. And it is through this constitution that the concept of rule of law is embedded, and that is what we practice in the courts. So yes, that is basically the historical bit of rule of law. Yes.
As you say, power is so much vested in one person. That's the Kabaka. Today we say the constitution says power belongs to the people. Isn't that somewhat different?
Well, when we talk about rule of law, one of the things about rule of law, we look at judicial independence and then separation of power.
Perfect.
Yes.
We'll be coming directly to that. Coming to you, Vianney, what is your aspect in as far as rule of law is concerned in Uganda?
Thank you very much. Based on that history and the background that has been ably put up, rule of law, we've been guided by the United Nations. The United Nations is an assembly of all nations. And they guide that rule of law means that system of governance where everyone is subject to the law, which is made publicly, and it is fairly applied to everyone and every citizen. And therefore, to test the concept of rule of law in Uganda, we must look at the metrics which we use to measure the rule of law. And those are supremacy of the law. Secondly, fairness. They must be fairly applied. No one should be above the law. And thirdly, there must be legal accountability. And therefore, Uganda, we've got a number of laws. But we've not got those laws just from a vacuum. We've had a turbulent history. As Preta has put up, when the colonialists leave, we get our own governments, but we get turmoil. Right from 1964, we have a referendum in the lost counties of Uganda, Bugangaizi. And that referendum divides the nation. The results are that Bugangaizi want to go back to Bunyoro, but Uganda wants to retain them. The head of the Kingdom of Uganda is the President of Uganda. The Prime Minister wants to respect what has come out of the constituency. And then the President is like, how can I sign off 2 counties from my own kingdom that they should go? So there is a standoff which culminates into the unfortunate events of 1966 and the invasion of Rubiri, the abolition of kingdoms, the pigeonhole constitution, and later on the Republic Constitution. That does not solve the problems. We have a total collapse of rule of law in 1971 when Idi Amin on 25th of January 1971 takes over when Obote is in Singapore. He rules, and he's very clear. He abolishes, because the 1966 Constitution also had a provision that gave power to the people, that empowered the parliament to make laws and such aspects. He removes those provisions by Legal Notice number 1 of 1971 and states that now the laws will be passed by, personally, the military council, we shall be responsible for passing laws. In other words, he rules by decrees. And a number of decrees, some of which, in fact, most of which are very unfortunate, are passed over the years. The world knows that decree that expelled the Asians from Uganda. But there are many others which were passed which were very unfortunate. Therefore, this total collapse from 1971 up to 1979. After that, we get a number of governments, some of which last a few days and a few months. In 1981, we have an election, which election ends into the declaration of Milton Obote as someone who has won. But you know what happened also. I will not go into details of that election. And then there is a group of Ugandans who say there has been rigging. We need to restore rule of law. There is arbitrariness, enforced disappearance, corruption. They release a 10-point program for which guides them to go to the bush, and they sell it to Ugandans. It appears most Ugandans bought the ideas, and therefore most of them joined them in Luwero, wherein the guerrilla war was very successful, and in 1986 they took over power. So there is optimism. The whole country, not only the country by the way, Africa and the whole world, they are very optimistic that finally Africa is going to get a very good background in terms of democracy, headed by the then Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who was a leader of the NRA, who took over as a president. But what became more interesting was the fact that he initiated the process of promulgating a new constitution. And the Ugandans participated in that process. We had the Constituent Assembly, which was elected by the people, and then they collect ideas all over the country, and they come up with a very nice document called the Constitution in 1995. When it comes up, that document, even today when you open it, the preamble is very clear. We, the people, recognizing our history, all that, we do give ourselves this constitution and to our posterity. Meaning that this constitution was not only for 1995. They also had me in mind. Of course, by then I was around, but they said, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, John Vianney Ayebare should benefit from this constitution, Ivan should benefit from this constitution, and the viewers should benefit. And it shouldn't stop there. Posterity is like forever. Even our sons and our grandsons and our grandsons. And therefore, that's where we are today. That's where we are. We are looking at those laws, finding out, have we really lived up to that spirit? Having recognized all that history, all this background of rule of law, how important it is, are we living up to the standards that we set for our own selves?
Thank you. I pick it from there, Vianney. Coming to you, Martin. If you can pick from where Vianney puts Bakoma, the rule of law, if we are to evaluate in terms of development, how has rule of law helped Uganda to move from where we were 30 years to today? And how do you weigh the achievements and the journey that we have moved?
Thank you so much, John. Just like Council Preta said, and my guild president, I would like to first take you back to the Greek mythology, where we had a lot of philosophers like Plato and Aristotle. Aristotle said that rule of law he said that law in a certain country or in our nation must be determined by the people themselves, and that no one should be above the law. That is, whether you're the president, the king, the leader, or anything. He also said that we are all equal before the law. I want to come to that. When we came to the 1995 Constitution of Uganda, it gave us all the authority as the people of Uganda. Through what? Number one, we got all the rights of electing our leaders. That is one. To the parliament or the constituent assembly, where those people take our views to the parliament and then they are presented all over. How has this helped us? For sure, like in 1971, Idi Amin, His Excellence, Field Marshal Idi Amin Dada, would just say that personally I've loved the way how aeroplanes are flying in air. So can we have them in Uganda? And then it could be. But at least these days, we at least try to contribute this through our dear honorable members of parliament. For example, if we need a certain activity, like where I come from, my ancestral village is in Luweero. We are great farmers, and we always do deal in mangoes and pineapples. So if we need to improve on our quality, we must, or we have to contribute to send our message to the government through our MPs. I remember those days we had Honorable Dr. Chisamba Mugerwa Wilberforce. He's now late, may his soul rest in peace. The Minister of Agriculture by then. He actually, through us, our parents who had the chance of talking to him at that time, could give him the ideology they have on this thing, and then government had to pick up the interest in the mangoes and pineapples of Luweero. Up to now, actually right now when you're to go to Bamunanika, the sides of Chichusa, in a certain place called Chiwangus, you'll find there that food processing industry for pineapples. And currently we produce pineapple juice and plus also mango juice. So by that, farmers have got a lot from what they grow. This has all come because of the rule of law. But those days, they could just decide for them. But at least right now we can decide through our MPs. Because if you are to look at the rule of law, it also gives us, like when we are to relate rule of law to democracy, we have a right of voting. And through voting our leaders, our opinions reach the government. Mm-hmm. So I greatly thank the government for that. However, there are some things that have really been blocked just because of maybe some reasons that we can't know. Some people maybe are just looking for their own things. For example, when we get this right, like when the president of Uganda, the constitution gives him the rights of maybe getting his own people that he wants, like the ministers or the different executive directors, whereby you find someone who is a medical doctor, has a lot of knowledge in medicine, being given the Ministry of ICT. Finding a great educationist being put maybe in the Ministry of Security and all defense and veteran affairs. Mm-hmm. By that, we are seeing that at least if maybe we had a say there during maybe the vetting or anything, we could have maybe better people in these ministries that would help us. Mm-hmm.
But when service when the president appoints those people, they are vetted by parliament. So what doesn't your members of parliament
that's
say?
Where I was coming
this
in.
One doesn't qualify, and
that's where I was coming in from. That currently in Uganda, the certain state we are in, whereby maybe we are in a state of fear, especially the people who are there in the vetting committees. That's why.
Why are they in fear?
Just like
a whole member of parliament who is voted in by people, and your excuse is because I have fear I couldn't vet someone who wasn't supposed to be in a certain position. Can really that qualify as an excuse?
John, I would like to show you something.
Ivan.
Mr. Ivan, I'm
sure.
Sorry. Mm-hmm. I would like to show you something. It's like when you go to school, you will find a head teacher. Mm-hmm. You find class teachers and different heads of department. Initially, these people were vetted by the Education Service Commission, which is still active right now. But when you reach the campus, you'll find out that the head teacher will reappoint his own. So when your head teacher appoints you as the head of department, so you expect a lot of things. Your budget will pass through very fast. In case you do what he or she wants.
We won't blame that on the head teacher, but that will be a weakness on the side of the teacher that thinks by being a head of the department, their expectations. Thank you so much, Martin. We'll be picking it up from there. Kindly hold it. I'll be coming back to you. I want to go right now to Peace. Peace, if you can pick it from Martin's point, which is very, very important, actually, about how, you know, ministers and heads of MDS, if to say, appointed, and actually, if they do qualify, or if they're actually appointed on merit. And that brings me to the question of, for example, separation of powers. Yes, it's the president that is going to appoint here. But then as the legislature, the parliament, you should be able to have the capacity to say, actually, it should be the roadblock to say if it was a mistake, at least we'll be able to rectify it from here. So is there meddling that even the members of parliament on those committees cannot be able to do proper vetting? And if you can break it down, that's separation of powers. That's for the executive, both the executive, legislature, and also the judiciary.
Right. Thank you. But before I answer your question, I just want to add a bit to what he had been talking about. So he had been talking about how rule of law is a breeding ground, how it encourages representative democracy. But beyond of that, rule of law implies that there is stability, some sort of peacefulness and continuity to the state of affairs. And that is really good for the economy. It is really good for business, foreign investors. I think we can see that between 1990 and around 2010, Uganda's GDP really did skyrocket because investors are being told the place that it had foreign wars, that's no longer the reality. This is now a peaceful country, and you can come and invest in this country. Also, it is important in other like social aspects.
I think it's, I would want you to stay a little bit on the issue of stability. It's a very important issue, because we've been discussing it and all we say is because of strong army, because of disciplined army. And that's what people look at when you talk about the stability that we have as a country. If you can expound on how actually rule of law has helped us as a country to be stable for these years.
When we talk about justice, in law, in judgments, they tell us that justice should not just be done, but it should be seen to be done. Yes. And that also applies to rule of law. The sense that things are being done fairly, that someone is not being shortcut. Yes, there is the police to keep law and order. Yes, we really do have a strong military, but the sense of justice that even if things are unfair, people are not going to necessarily pick up arms is a very strong factor that encourages stability. As you can see, in 1981, our now president, His Excellency Museveni, he went to the bush. He had that guerrilla warfare because he felt that there was no fairness.
Oh. Yes. Otherwise, he would have gone to court.
He did go to court, but but he didn't feel that he could rely on the system. He thought that the system had failed him, and he wasn't alone in thinking that. The people who also had conviction that he had rightfully won that member of parliament position, and that things had to change. And when he came into power, he managed to create an environment whereby a certain sense of fairness, of, though you know there are class differences, there's tribalism, but it is not so much that someone is going to pick up arms and go against the state. And even if they do, that we have mechanisms in place, that our military is strong enough to combat those internal struggles of power and to protect us from the external factors and players who would destabilize the country. And if you look at the president's slogans over the years, it is steady progress, stability. There's that stability, that peacefulness, and among the older population, people who were around during the Amin era, during President Obachu's era, whenever I told them maybe vote opposition, they're like, no, we do not want that strife. We are used to this peace. We can have children, we can send them to school, and for many Ugandans, that is enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and that speaks, I think, to the first slogans when President Museveni was coming to power. Peace, security, prosperity. And I think that really speaks a lot. That's great, and we get to understand actually the aspect of rule of law and why we should be able to protect that and fight for it as Ugandans. We get to understand how it is pivotal to the growth of our country, but also our stability. We need the stability if you're to do business and be sure that I can do a business which I'm looking at returns to come in the next 20 years. Otherwise, if you're not certain that your investment will still be safe in the next 20 years, you're going to do short-term investments of 2, 3, 4 years. At the same time, investors who want to bring millions of dollars here certainly will not be able to come and invest here if they're not certain of the stability of the country. This is the checkpoint. We are checking the law and helping you to understand it in the most simplistic way. My name is Ivan Tumkonde, and in studio I have Peace, I have Martin, I have Yanni from LDC. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back with this conversation. Keep it going online. That's on our YouTube channel where we're streaming live. You can be able to share the link to make sure that your friends who are not live on air can be able to watch their convenience. But also, if you've just joined and you want to be able to pick it up from where we started, just go to the YouTube channel, U24 Television, rewind and be able to see from where we started this conversation. Go on to our X, or formerly Twitter. Send in your comments, what you think in as far as rule of law is concerned in Uganda. We'll be right back.
My name is Erica Murunchi, and welcome to Be Inspired by Erica. So today I want to talk about personal hygiene. Personal hygiene is not just a habit, it is a way of life. By maintaining personal hygiene, you will reduce stress, improve on your focus, show respect for yourself and others around you, to the people around you. Take care of your space and your life. Keep your room tidy, wash your hands, cut your fingernails, comb your hair, brush your teeth, and many others. Take care of your space and your life. Brush your teeth, make your bed, bathe, cut your fingernails, comb your hair, and many others. Make cleanliness a habit.
Don't miss on U24.
Now, to be honest with you, we are currently living in the best time to ever get rich online. And well, I assume that's why you're watching this video. Now, to some of you who may not know who I am, well, I'm Daniel Ashweze, a 24-year millionaire day trader, and I've been trading close to 5 years. I have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars entirely through trading. And more to that, I've been able to teach thousands of students to make money trading. Now, my purpose of doing this video is to teach you on how to start trading completely from scratch. I'll show you what to do straight from the beginning, and I'll also take you through the intermediate, and lastly, how you can actually be able to make money. And by the way, I'll also show you on how you can start with as less as $50. Now, without any further ado, let's get started with our course.
Welcome back. You're still watching The Checkpoint right here on U24 Television. It's a great evening. My name is Ivan Tumkonde, and in studio I have Peace, I have Martin, and I have Vianney from LDC. We're talking rule of law in Uganda. being able to break it down, understanding the history, where we at, what needs to be improved, and actually how can we make our country, Uganda, better. I have many people following us right online. That's on YouTube and on X. And if I'm to get a few of your comments, Chichoncho Agnes, thank you so much for watching. Chichoncho says, so proud of you, Vianney. Aurel B says, hey, the name of Martin, huh? Aurel B, she's shocked about Martin's name. Same with Agatha, huh? That you have a full paragraph of a name. Jacqueline, thank you for watching. She says, Martin, I am proud of you, Sebo. Martin, they are so proud of you. Joan Grace is watching. She says, kudos, President JVA. That's Vianney? Okay. Navmanya Robert right from Ntungamo. Thank you so much for watching, Robert. Robert says, thank you for the conversation. Opale Frank says, we love you, Mr. President, and I think that is going to Vianney. Again, he says to the panelists, we celebrate you. Thank you for the insightful conversations. More comments coming in, and I'll keep reading them through as they come. As we went into the break, Peace, you're trying to draw us to the conversation about separation of powers, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary.
So the doctrine of separation of powers is to ensure that not one single person has too much power, that there is no arbitrary exercise of authority. So in separation of powers, there are three arms of government. We have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. These arms of the government all have their distinct roles, duties, and functions. They can exercise a supervisory role over each other. Yes, they can intersect, but they shouldn't necessarily interfere with the workings of other arms of government. As he was talking about, the ministers are appointed by the president and they are vetted by the parliament. But one thing that we should know about the ministerial position, it is not a technical role. Because if we look at the ministries, if we are going to have the Ministry of Lands, but in that ministry we are going to have experts. We are going to have permanent secretaries, we are going to have people who have doctorates in this field. And I think that the issue of appointing people who are not necessarily skilled in those roles is not one that is unique to Uganda. People in the United States have complained about some of the appointments that President Trump has made in his second tenure. Some people have been appointed and their CV, for example, were TV hosts, and now they are holding a very important ministerial position, or they have no background in the ministry that they are holding. So that is not a problem unique to us. But it is not such a fundamental problem, because you have people who are in the government, who are skilled, who have the experience and the skills to execute this role.
It's like picking me from here and you say I'm going to head the Ministry of Health. If it was the Ministry of ICT Communications, makes sense. But what would I do in the Ministry of Health?
Yes. You are not going to be treating people. You're not going to be coming up with anything groundbreaking. You're going to be working under doctors, so you could per se have a supervisory role. You do not necessarily need to have medical knowledge to properly execute that task. Though it would be a plus factor if you were a doctor or a medical professional.
Definitely.
But as a TV host, you can go and be the Minister of Health. There are doctors, there are clinical officers who know what they are doing, and they will guide you the right way. Yeah. So back to separation of powers. When we talk about rule of law, we have the theory and we have the practical. We have what our constitution, what the subsidiary laws are saying, and then we have what's in practice, what is being practiced by the courts, what our parliamentarians are legislating, and all of that. But when it comes to separation of power, especially the independence of the judiciary, that is a big problem whereby the Ugandan setup runs into a problem. If you look at our constitution, judges and other judicial officers, yes, they are selected by the Judicial Service Commission. But for them to be elected into these positions, they have to be accepted by the president. It is the president who appoints them, who says, now you can go and be a judge of the High Court. And to add to that, these judicial officers have to have a probation period of 2 years, which is actually not in compliance with our Employment Act, because our Employment Act says that probation period should only last 6 months. But for judges of the High Court, they have to be on probation for 2 years. So you have been appointed to this position of great power that you're going to be exercising. You're going to be determining if someone gets to leave, if they're going to go on death row, if they're going to spend the rest of their lives in prison. And you have been appointed by the president of the country. So they are in a difficult position. Imagine you are a High Court judge and you have been appointed, and the president tells you, I want this to be the decision, this to be the final judgment in this case. In a hard position, because you have those 2 years to impress, otherwise you will not continue in your tenure. So that is a problem that we have in our formulation of our laws in the independent judiciary. Actually, we have jurisprudence on this same issue. I think it was one of the former deputy justices, whereby we went into an issue of separation of power. Yes, but if there is no separation of power, as you can see during the 2021 Speaker elections, when President Museveni he attended that session in Parliament, and the population was asking, so why is the separation of power? Why is the president sitting in when they're electing the speaker? People were afraid that he's going to threaten his presence.
It looked like he was supervising.
Yes, and you should make sure that you vote so and so for that speaker.
Yeah.
So there isn't much separation of power, and because there isn't this much separation of power, that is how arbitrary acts enter into the play.
Yeah.
That is how we see judicial officers executing their roles. That is how we see the military, the court martials, having jurisdiction over civilians, because there is that lack of separation of powers. But I think this lack of separation of powers comes into play because this current government of ours has been in power for so long. It's coming to nearly 40 years. So this overly continuity, it's more of the same turn every time.
Okay.
So we said we can't easily find a distinction between the executive, the legislative, and judiciary, because the president and the systems of governance in place have been in place too long that they have kind of meshed together. Yes.
So people have gotten to where they have to be pleasing the powers that be in order to have the benefits. You want to be the next minister, then you have to please the powers that be. You're a member of parliament, you want to be a minister.
Yes.
Same.
And in such a mechanism, there is no fairness, there is no equality, and that is what rule of law thrives at.
Yeah.
That all of us Ugandans, all of us are equal before the law. Yeah.
Good. Talking about being equal before the law, and as I come to you, Martin, we've seen in a lot of instances where our leaders have abused power, and you talk about the military. General ABCD is using officers to act on his behalf to do land evictions. Find UPDF doing land evictions, and it's so unbecoming. But also you're on the road, and then another car who has a right of way. Everyone can be able to put a siren in their car, and very many things that really do happen. Misuse of public funds and all that. Talk about the issue of misuse of power and how actually it affects rule of law.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Paul Lumumba, one of the great Kenyan lawyers, describes Africa as bringing in people with ideas, bringing in people without ideas to be our topmost leaders, and those with the ideas being typical commoners in the country. And making matters worse, these people without the ideas do not give any chance to these with the ideology to show us their expertise. Like it or not, a minister is greatly influential in his or her own ministry. General Edward Katumba Wamala, who would have been, say, the Minister of Defense, is actually deciding a lot in the Ministry of Works and Transport. Yet Honorable Bamulanga Kisempija, a great farmer, is greatly deciding for the veterans. Going back to the abuse of power, by the way, it is one of them whereby you will find out that because some people have power, they will begin to bring in funny appointments on concepts of technical know-how, not technical know-how. I always feel hurt when I hear a lot of people say that we the youth have not done a lot. I even like it or not, Mr. President will tell you that a lot of the youth have studied and a lot of them are working, hard working. But just because of the few people, we are missing out on such people to show us their expertise. If you're to read in my book, The Dark Hour, you will find out that one of the things that have made Africa backwards, one of the things that have chased away investors from our country, is the concept of technical know-how, which has greatly disorganized our economic system, which has disorganized everything. But all this is coming out due to abuse of power. Look at us, the bright and intelligent youth in the country. When you come on board, you are abducted just because of someone who doesn't want to see you shine. Why has he done that? He has the power. One time I was in a certain area called Namazina. It's on the it's an island village on Lake Victoria. A certain man with over 150 acres. This guy was allowed to construct permanent houses there on that shore, yet the rest of the other people were denied the chance of that, of permanent houses. They told them, we want temporary houses. And this man, after being after the NFA realizing they had to come to him, it was only a call, leave him. And we found out that the man was just there. Because this, now the person who allowed him, because for him he claimed that the call came from Vanema or NFA, one of the big people there. Seriously, that is misuse of office. Going on to contact the DPC to give him security. Find someone is constructing in a place where he's not supposed to construct, others are not constructing there. But because there is what we call order from above, the above have not yet known who that is, someone is constructing. Yet Aristo and the rule of law says that we are all equal before the law. What has this brought up? Number one, like it or not, the worst thing you on earth is someone losing trust in you. That is the worst thing. Even if I'm to lose, if I've been trusting you a lot and I lose trust, trust me, you can get a problem and people fail to come in. That's why a council was talking of Museveni running to the bush, yet we had courts at that time. Remember, you asked also that question. Why? General Museveni had lost trust in the judiciary. So, abuse of power makes us to lose all the trust we have in our judiciary.
Great.
I'll refer again to my book. When this younger man decides to go with his friends just to look for justice, and the way they looked for the justice, you couldn't like it if you're the one. Why did they go on to do this? They had failed to get justice from the legal personnel and the legal bodies.
So that's basically the cost of misuse of power. And that draws me to the issue. You have something?
One more thing about abuse of power. And all these things will actually chase away all the investors. And even me with my little money to invest maybe in my business or my investment for over 100 years, I'll find myself just there because I'm not so sure of whether it will last or not.
Sure.
So I'll fear, I'll have fear of investing in the center of political instability and no rule of law.
Thank you,
just
Martin.
because of the abuse of power.
Thank you, Martin. And that puts us to the question, is it rule of law or rule by law? And I think Vianney will be able to break down for us that. Is the rule of law in Uganda helping the ordinary person, or actually the people that it's made for? Is it serving the purpose? And can we say, relating to what he's been talking about, the misuse of power, and that's where we're seeing issues to do with land evictions, where someone comes and, evicts people from 2 square miles and says, go wherever you're going, that's up to you, to hell. So is the law actually working for us? And that speaks to the issue of human rights in Uganda. Vian.
Thank you very much. The opposite of rule of law is arbitrariness, which means that someone can have powers to do all he wants without being questioned by anyone. And there is no state which would desire such a regime obtaining at any particular point, because that would lead to lawlessness, which leads to anarchy. You would say generally there is rule of law. Today we had people gathering at Namgongo, millions perhaps, and we can say they have safely returned home, perhaps. We can only hope. There was a scare, we saw what happened. That's just one example that we have. However, when it comes to human rights, we need to wake up. I think the panelists have all argued that where there is rule of law, there is stability, hence investment, and then prosperity. But we need not shy away from the reality where we are at the present. Because human rights, as we all know, they have their own characteristics. For example, they are universal, which means all of us have the same human rights. They are inherent. They are not granted by anyone. We just talk about them and we just sensitize people about them, but they are inherent. Even if I don't tell you about your human rights, you have them. And the rights I have, they're the same rights a 2-year-old has. We all have, for example, rights to life. And many others, which I cannot go into details. However, where we are, like I've said, we must wake up. Rule of law says supremacy first. Secondly, fairness, which means everybody be treated equally. Thirdly, have legal accountability. When I go to supremacy, I will take just one example, freedom from torture. Yesterday I was following a discussion from Kenya where the 2 activists, Agatha and Boniface, narrated their story from Tanzania and what happened to them. I mean, it is shocking. Let us not just go to Tanzania. let us come here to Uganda. I think all of us need to develop a certain system where we ask questions. What if it was me? What if it was me? Because the supremacy of the law says someone has broken the law, arrest, arraign in court within 48 hours, then you can remand, try, convict, sentence if he has been found guilty. But there's nowhere where it can be justified that you can torture someone. And if we do not wake up, we can have a situation where someone can live stream a torture. And some Ugandans, surprisingly, they can turn it into jokes. You've seen jokes about basements? I mean, it is just shocking. These should not be jokes. These are matters that are very fundamental. Then, I will talk about the right to a fair trial. Fairness, like they have submitted, is an important aspect of it. Because you cannot subject yourself to a system which you know it is unfair. As I speak today, most Ugandans, you can say they have trust in the court system because there are cases which are there. So why would they go there if there's no trust? You know, there could be many who trust in the court system. But there are also other cases where we must wake up. Some cases which are hot to handle, that sometimes it is even very difficult to get a judge or a magistrate to handle it. And even to get a prosecutor to handle such a case, it becomes very difficult. Even you as a private lawyer, to represent a client in such a case, it becomes very difficult for you. And that goes deep to the right to a fair hearing. Where we have, for example, I will use an example of the late Muhammad Sejini. The first time they were arrested...
As you wrap up,
yes, the first time they were arrested was in September 2001. He died in January this very year. And that is about how many years? 4 or so. And his case had not been concluded. And there is a feeling in Uganda that perhaps if there were not those charges, Muhammad Sejini would still be alive today. So what's wrong? If you're a state and you're empowered with the powers to investigate, to prosecute, and you know, to try civilians to that extent, why do you take 4 years to try someone and still you don't make any headway? So that's a fundamental right which must be respected. Human rights and rule of law, they are intertwined. Where there is no human rights, you cannot have rule of law.
Thank you so much, Vianney. Because of time, and unfortunately, we'll have to be cutting this short. I'll be able to catch up and continue with this conversation when we get back here. But I want to thank you so much, all of you, for being a part of today's conversation. I'll just allow you 10 seconds, kindly 10 seconds, to have your last remarks. And we make it, we call it a day.
My last remarks are some numbers about rule of law. So according to the 2018 survey by Afrobarometer, 58% of Ugandans trust the courts, 55% trust the police, 51% trust parliament, and the electoral commission, only 42% of Ugandans trust it. Then also, according to the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index, Uganda is ranked at number 126. We are in the bottom percentile. So, you know, as we as Ugandans may think that there is some rule of law that is remaining in this country, but outsiders looking in, they look at us and they say, we don't produce the rule of law. Yeah.
Okay. Martin, kindly 10 seconds, please.
As usual, omukerekere Martin Dipores, musajja akawa kyobe kitaka kyangwe, bali baseka, but they kept quiet. What I can say is, let's all advocate for human rights. I urge you all to know your right.
Thank you. Vianney, so 10 seconds.
I need a whole night to understand and get that name in details. But thank you very much, Ivan, for hosting us, and I thank the viewers for really participating. We shall be here every Tuesday, and we are happy that this opportunity was given to us, and indeed we hope it is being productive to the entire nation. Thank you very much. John Vianney Ayobare, the good president, LDC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vianney. And for our online audience, thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. Gilbert, I see Isaac Musede, all of you commenting right here. Unfortunately, because of time, I won't be able to read all your comments, but kindly keep them coming, keep the conversation going. I will be able to pick it up. Musaja Kawa, you have a lot of fan base right here that I'm seeing, and maybe if I can just read about two comments. Mujenyi says, you must agree with me that laws in Uganda today is just paperwork. Amtwide says, Musaja Akawa Martin or Mukerekere, big up. They are giving you kudos. Arafat is basically appreciating the show. We thank you so much for being a part of this evening, and we continue to help our fellow Ugandans, most especially the young people, to understand the law. Actually, for those who are still students, be able to pick interest in laws that are so much to do with improving the lives of our people, and actually helping you not to be on the wrong side of the law. So thank you so much, online people. I see comments are still coming in, but we'll be able to just continue with this conversation online and then on X. Imi, well done. Thank you for watching, and happy birthday to you. I don't know how old you are right now, but happy birthday. Enjoy your new age. Thank you to my team in control room. Afizu, thank you so much for the great work done. My producer, Ziwasali Mosh, thank you so much. Well done. I wish you all the best. From the team here at Checkpoint and U24 at large, we say good night. Bye-bye.